Hello guys, my name is Nipok and today we are going to make a short summary of what is known as one of the biggest plane disappearances in the history. When I started to read and investigate about the case online, man, it's a freaking rabbit hole. So for those who are interested in some more details, I suggest you to dive into a lake of informations out there and judge for yourself. But shortly, that's how it happened. At 12:42 a.m. on a quiet moonlight night of March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 operated by Malaysia Airlines took off from Kuala Lumpur and turned toward Beijing, climbing to its assigned cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The flight number was 370. Farik Hamid, the first officer with more than 2,700 hours of flying experience, was flying the airplane. He was 27 years old. This was a training flight for him, the last one. He would soon be fully certified. His trainer was the pilot in command, a man named Zaharie Ahmad, who at 53 was one of the most senior captains at Malaysia Airlines and have more than 80,000 hours of flying experiences. He was married and have 3 adult children, owned 2 houses, and in his first house he had installed an elaborate Microsoft flight simulator. He flew it frequently and often posted to online forums about his hobby. In the cockpit, Farik would have been respectful to him, and Zaharie was not known for being dominating. In the cabin were 10 flight attendants, all of them Malaysian. They had 227 passengers to care for, including 5 children. Up in the cockpit that night, while First Officer Farik flew the airplane, Captain Zaharie handled the radios. The arrangement was standard, but Zaharie's transmission were a bit unusual. At 1:01 a.m., he reported that they had leveled off at 35,000 feet, which was not required report in radars or real airspace, where the norm is to report leaving an altitude, not arriving at one. At 1:08, the flight crossed the Malaysian coastline and set out across the South China Sea in the direction of Vietnam. Zaharie again reported the plane's level at 35,000 feet. 11 minutes later, as the airplane closed in on a waypoint near the start of Vietnamese air traffic jurisdiction, the controller at Kuala Lumpur Center radioed. Malaysia 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9, good night. And Zaharie answered, good night, Malaysia 370. He did not read back the frequency as he should have, but otherwise the transmission sounded normal. It was the last the word heard from MH370. The pilots never checked in with Ho Chi Minh or answered any of the subsequent attempts to raise them. Primary radar relies on simple raw pings of objects in the sky. Air traffic control system use what is known as secondary radar. It depends on a transponder signal what is transmitted by each airplane and contains richer information that primary radar does, for instance, the airplane's identity and altitude. 5 seconds after MH370 crossed into Vietnamese airspace, the symbol representing its transponder dropped from the screens of Malaysian air traffic control, and 37 seconds later, the entire airplane disappeared from secondary radar. The time was 1:21 a.m., 39 minutes after takeoff. The controller in Kuala Lumpur was dealing with other traffic elsewhere on his screen and simply didn't notice. When he finally did, he assumed that the airplane was in the hand of Ho Chi Minh, somewhere out beyond his range. The Vietnamese controllers, meanwhile, saw MH370 cross into their airspace and then disappeared from radar. They apparently misunderstood a formal agreement by which Ho Chi Minh was supposed to inform Kuala Lumpur immediately if an airplane that had been handed off was more than 5 minutes late checking in. They tried repeatedly to contact the aircraft, but without success. By the time they pick up the phone to inform Kuala Lumpur, 18 minutes has passed since MH370 disappearance from their radar screens. What followed was an exercise of confusion and clumsiness. Kuala Lumpur's Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Center should have been notified within an hour of the disappearance. By 2:30 a.m., it still had not been. 4 more hours passed before an emergency response was finally begun at 6:32 a.m. At that moment, the airplane should have been landing in Beijing. The search for it was initially concentrated in the South China Sea between Malaysia and Vietnam. It was an international effort by 34 ships and 28 aircraft from 7 different countries. But MH370 was nowhere near there. Within a matter of days, primary radar records recovered from air traffic control computers and partially confirmed by secret Malaysian Air Force data revealed that as soon as MH370 disappeared from secondary radar, it turned sharply to the southwest, flew back across the Malay Peninsula and banked around the island of Penang. From there, it flew northwest up the Strait of Malacca and out across the Andaman Sea, where it faded beyond radar range into twilight zone. That part of the flight took more than an hour to accomplish and suggested that this was not a standard case of a hijacking, nor was it like an accident or pilot suicide scenario that anyone had encountered before. From the start, MH370 was leading investigators in unexplored directions. The mystery surrounding MH370 has been a focus of continued investigation and a source of sometimes very sweating public speculation. The loss devastated families on 4 continents. The idea that a sophisticated machine with its modern instrument and excessive communications could simply vanish seems beyond the possibility. It is hard to permanently delete an email, and living off the grid is nearly unachievable even when the attempt is deliberate. A Boeing 777 is meant to be electronically accessible at all times. The disappearance of the airplane has provoked a host of theories. Many of those are ridiculous. All are given life by the fact that in this age, commercial airplanes don't just vanish, but this one did, and more than 7 years later, its precise location remained unknown. Even so, a great deal about the disappearance of MH370 has come into clearer view, and reconstruction much of what happened that night is possible. The cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder might never be recovered, but what we still need to know is unlikely to come from the black boxes. Instead, it will have to come from Malaysian regime, which unfortunately is said to be one of the most corrupt in the region. But to make long story short, majority of independent investigators believe that Captain Zaharie is responsible for deliberately depressurized the airplane, shut down entire electrical system and crashed into the ocean at high speed. But like I said at the beginning, if you are interested for some heavy reading, go ahead, start researching and decide for yourself what might be the truth. Take care and see you next time. Bye bye.